Okay, so done a lot of work on this, as you can see. We've repaired the sort of headband and tailband, done a lot of work on the central ribs, and last night we glued down this piece of fabric and with a lot of glue. We left it to dry overnight, and the results actually turned out quite well. They've got a very sort of solid, sort of semi-rigid surface there, and the glue's soaked into these bands. So basically all of the components, the thread, the twine, the loops from to hold the pages in place, the vellum, the leather, it's all sort of set now as a sort of single bundle, which adds a lot of strength and resilience to the book. So now we've done that, we're in a position to think about attaching the boards. And what I'm hoping to use, if I just move the camera here slightly, is this binding here. So this is a full leather Morocco binding from a volume of Histoire Ecclésiastique, dates from 1730. It has a really nice set of marbled end papers on both sides that are intact, as you can see. And if we sort of look at the sizing, this is actually, let's take it out here. There we go. This actually is very nicely set for us to be able to get two boards out of one of the binding boards. So what I'm going to do first is separate off this board because that's going to need to be sawn, basically trimmed, to give us the two boards that we're going to use for the book. So I'm going to carefully just use scissors here and separate this board from the original spine. This separate panel we're going to use later on to actually give this will give us the leather for the spine of the book itself, but that'll have to be soaked off first. So we'll put that to one side. The next thing I'm going to do is separate these end papers. This we're going to actually turn into two separate sets of end papers for the front and the back of the book, and it's all very intact and matches very beautifully, so we're quite lucky that we have this. Okay, so this we'll put to one side as well. And so we're left with this. So key things, so a couple of things. The first thing is this is going to need very careful measurement. This is definitely a case of, measure 2 times, 3 times, 4 times and cut once. What we're going to be aiming for is, as you can see, there's a margin that's going to be around the text block that shows the sort of gilding. And we'll want a similar margin at the base here, obviously trim here, and then we'll want the same the other side. Now, obviously 2 sides are going to be the existing margins of the board, which is great, but this is going to be a cut surface. Now, how I've done restorations previously, and this is an example of a much earlier one that I did, was what I would do was sort of peel back the leather and then very carefully use a knife to cut away the board itself while leaving the leather intact. So in effect there was a strip of leather here that I could then fold back over to cover the cut surface of the board. And it kind of works. The problem is it's a completely dry process, and if you fold leather like this when it's in its dry state, it gets quite it resists you and it gets quite distressed, as you can see there, and it doesn't sort of go round in the perfectly sort of compliant fashion that you'd nevertheless like. And of course it's lacking the gilding as well. But, it gives a sort of an okay result. But I think for this we're going to want to do something slightly different. And so my plan is to cut here, expose the board, and then I've got an extra strip of from another binding, and I'm going to snip this carefully and see if I can cover it with this. So I actually will have the gilt along this edge as well. Now, admittedly, that will result in a seam, but I think I'll be able to hide that seam so it looks, you know, it'll basically be invisible. And so we'll end up with two nice small full leather boards that are available for us to go to the next step. But that's the plan. So let's see if I've got the tools to do it well.